And there's a nagging thought in the back of my head, which is another mistake we make. We need to listen to what our inner voices are telling us. Just because she has a better personality doesn't mean she's a better fit. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as we started doing our background check, she failed it. When I went back to the lady who didn't have as fun and easygoing of a personality, she was moving on to another position. So I probably lost a good staff member because we went with our feelings and not with the qualifications that we really needed.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women, where we talk about challenges senior female leaders face in being happy and successful at work. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah E. Brown. My guest today is Cynthia Hetherington. She is the founder and CEO of the Hetherington Group, a consulting, publishing, managed services, and training firm that leads in due diligence, corporate intelligence, and cyber investigations. Throughout her career, she has assisted clients on thousands of cases using online open sources and databases, as well as executing boots-on-the-ground operations. She provides specialized training for investigative professionals through the OSINT Academy and has authored many industry-leading books on conducting cyber investigations, including her latest, OSINT, The Authoritative Guide to Due Diligence, Essential Resources for Critical Business Intelligence, and this is the third edition. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you very much. It's really great to be here.
So what does OSINT stand for?
It's an acronym that goes back to the early World War I or prior. It's about collecting open sources. So the OS stands for open source and INT is for intelligence. And this is finding information that's accessible and using it for a business case or an intelligence use.
And how did you get into this field?
I was a public librarian 30 years ago. Intelligence is really just information with a purpose. And as a public librarian, we were sharing information all day long. And as the internet blossomed into an actual usable tool, I just kept adapting my skills, got my private detective license, and 25 years later, we're celebrating a big anniversary for the company.
Wow. Very interesting. So what should female executives be concerned about when they're thinking about hiring or partnering with anyone?
Female executives particularly are going to be, I hate to stereotype us, but we are going to be a little bit more empathetic to the personalities and the individuals that are coming into our office. We want to be very careful about the individual talents and skill sets. We should have a clear demarcation of what we want to bring into our team, what kind of skill sets we're looking for, and not make, and I'm speaking actually, frankly, from my position, making excuses or trying to be, so understanding to an individual's household or, lifestyle concerns. If you're going to want someone who's going to run at your pace, you're going to have to find someone who's going to be able to keep up.
Okay. So what do you find are the biggest mistakes that she makes before learning about what she needs to know from you? What are the biggest mistakes that female executives make when they're looking at partnership arrangement or even hiring a nanny? Well, let's hold the nanny thing for a minute and talk about business, and then we'll go talk about household help.
We tend to look at personalities. And again, I can only speak from my experience, but I had an example last week where I had two gals come in for a position. One did not have a great personality. The other one did. The one with the lackluster personality had great skills. They both were equally well skilled. In fact, the one without the personality probably had the better skill set. When I asked the team, I listened to them, and everyone thought the nicer of the two ladies was going to be a better hire. So I went and hired her. And there was a nagging thought in the back of my head, which is another mistake we make. We need to listen to what our inner voices are telling us. That said, just because she has a better personality doesn't mean she's a better fit. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as we started doing our background check, she failed it.
Mm.
When I went back to the lady who didn't have as fun and easygoing of a personality, she was moving on to another position. So I probably lost a good staff member because we went with our feelings and not with the qualifications that we really needed.
Mm. Not with hard data, so to speak.
Yeah. You can trust your gut, but don't follow your heart.
Oh, that's a good moniker. Trust your gut, but don't follow your heart.
Yeah.
How does that apply when you're hiring household help, a cleaning service or a nanny or something like that?
Even more so, when you're bringing household help in, you're bringing someone into your home, the most protected and valuable asset that you have, your family, your children, where your kids eat and sleep. Everything about that should be the most protected thing that you consider in your life. And especially trusting your gut. If you have a sense that the individual you're talking to, might present really well, but there's just something that just doesn't feel right, go with that. Don't follow your heart and say, well, she's on hard times and she lost her job, so maybe I'll give her a chance. And no, there's a reason why that person is not working for somebody else. And it's either by choice or by condition. And I do respect and appreciate that people are going to be moving and transitioning around all over, but check in with their last employer, check their credentials, make sure that everything that you are concerned about, mostly like criminal backgrounds or past behavior, are 100%. And do spot check. I had an employee I hired, I thought was amazing. On her very first day of employment, she came in inebriated, and I was really shocked. I thought, this is crazy. And my heart at the time said, this poor woman, she must be going through something really traumatic to make such a stupid mistake as come in drunk on your first day of work. And I wanted to put her on a couch and counsel her, but that wasn't a very good match for the position that we had. I mean, we couldn't put her in charge of anything. Gee, I couldn't even let her drive home that day.
Mm.
So I was arguing internally. I was arguing, like, my heart wanted to help this woman because, gosh, you have to be going under something. But common sense said, this is just not a good match.
Mm. So is there a standard process that we should be going through when we're looking to hire anybody?
Anybody, whether you're hiring domestically or you're hiring for your company, should go through a classic background screening check. You want to make sure that these individuals are handling your family, your money, your reputation, your property, or your life, are clearly vetted by a licensed professional. And that is not cost prohibitive. It's a few dollars, but it'll get you a good, clear mind. Please do not do your own background check because you do not have the authority to get as deep and as specific as, past criminal offenses and fraud. Any number of things could be sitting there. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. They may have been under bad circumstances, but you want to be as informed as possible.
And so how do you find a firm that is licensed to do background checks? Do you just Google it?
Actually, you can. You could go into Google. You can look for your state. I would recommend that you look for your state association. So licensed private investigators, Arkansas, California, Texas, every state has its own state association, and then go through the member directory there. Feel free to email the president of the association and ask questions. That person will also be a licensed private investigator, probably try to sell to you directly, but they're still going to be qualified versus, when in doubt, checkthemout.com and running your own investigation. That's going to be very bad, poor information. That's not going to be very helpful.
So what kind of free resources are available to help in this process?
Well, speaking of Google, we can actually Google and look up individuals. Whatever is out there is open. That's what we call open source. And we certainly can understand a little bit more about the person's background and how they present themselves. Please keep in mind that as you're hiring people, there are EEOC laws, and, hiring for someone in your home is very different than hiring them as an employer for your work. Consult, even if you have to, consult with your attorney. They might be able to help you with this process a little by putting you with a proper HR and process of some sort. But the laws aside, and I say that with a lot of stress because we always want to stay above the wavelength there, but Google could be a rich resource to learn a lot about an individual because what people do in their lives, they post openly on the internet now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if somebody has been questionable, like 10 years ago, they got drunk and posted something really inappropriate on Facebook, how much credence should we put in that? Hi, this is Sarah Brown again, the host of the KTS Success Factor podcast for women. I hope you are enjoying this episode and gaining some tips and inspiration on how you can be happier, more successful, and experience less stress at work. If you would like to learn more about how you can empower the women in your organization to do the same, simply click on the show notes to see how you can connect with me. As an added bonus for my podcast guests, you will see how you can book 30 minutes with me to explore how you can implement a scalable self-coaching program for the women in your organization. Simply visit bookachatwithsarahebrown.com. Now back to this informative episode.
That's actually a great question. So there you are scrolling, and social media now is getting very old, and we're going to find, the drunk messages, the silly messages. Gosh, I feel sorry for all the young folks coming out of college because you know what? They're college kids. When you're college kids, you still have a protected lifestyle, but you're having a fun lifestyle. This is when the empathy could come in. Have a sense of perspective and put things in context. If they're caught up in a picture of themselves at a party, looks like they're enjoying themselves, they're holding a cocktail, big deal. If they're doing something that looks really questionable or concerning for you because it doesn't match, and I always say, understand what your why is. Why am I hiring this person? What are my goals for this person? What do I need to accomplish with this person? If they don't meet your merit or standard, then it's not going to work because you're always going to look at that person, even if you hire them, and you're going to question the individual across from you. Like, would you do this crazy thing, now, though you did it 10 years ago? And you know what? I always tell people too, have an opportunity to address the issue that's concerning you. If you're talking with someone who had some bad behavior 10 years ago, hey, I noticed this thing in your social media. We are doing background checks. And first and foremost, by the way, you shouldn't let these employees know that they will be subject to a background investigation.
Do not let them know?
No, do let them know. Please do let them know.
Okay.
And in some states, the laws require it. So every state has its own requirement for employing people. And we want to be very cognizant of that. So, and that's changing. Unfortunately, it's changing daily. It makes it very difficult. That's why we hire a licensed private investigator, because they should be aware of what their state laws are to keep you out of the wrong. California now, as of July 1st, is going to go through right to dismiss. There could be criminal records in there that you're not going to see or know about, and you could be bringing these people into your home. So now there's what you know and there's what you use. So, it could be a really dangerous situation, because what I feel, though we're not doing this because we are licensed agencies, that people are going to be aware of content that's out there, and they're going to be making decisions about the people they want to hire, but they're not going to be admitting to it.
Okay. And risks, rewards, say more about that.
Well, here's the thing. This is the practical side of me talking to someone. This is 25 years of being in this industry. If I know that we're going to help you hire a nanny, we're going to bring someone in to watch your children, and this person that we're looking at has a criminal history that could be incredibly questionable, especially around children. Maybe they had DUIs and you're going to ask them to be driving your kids back and forth somewhere. Maybe they had predator issues. I'm going to let you know, I'm going to be asking for forgiveness after the fact. I am not going to put your children in danger. Yeah, at the core of what my company, what I do is we're here to make the world a safer place. We're not going to compromise that because of whatever the statements of legislators who are not having the same issues or concerns that these businesswomen are having. We need to make businesswomen successful. We need to empower them to do better at their jobs. We need to get them in a position where they could be a leader amongst their peers. And I can't have them worrying about what their kids are up to when they're trying to do that. And it's exactly the same doctrine we do with the military. If we're working and supporting the military, I can't have an admiral or a general worried about his family at home when she's commanding troops overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's try to help each other out and empower each other to be the best executives we can by using intelligence and not straight up jurisprudence to guide us in every turn.
Well, I see these advertisements on the news about the scenario that I see is, I'm going to make this up. George, we'd really like to help you, but maybe you can help us understand. We did a Google search on you and all of this stuff came up. And the guy is saying, well, it's really not true. And, blah, 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 blah. And I think that in a lot of cases, this is Sarah's bias. Sometimes it's 50% true, 50% is not true. But what can you do about those kinds of free resources like Google searches that produce things that are not quite true?
Well, and today, especially misinformation and disinformation is profoundly increasing with artificial intelligence generating content at the snap of your fingers. And it's starting off with students who are ending up in the workforce soon enough with information they'll never be able to remove because the preponderance of data replicating itself over and over again. It's like roaches in a hotel. Once you chase them out of one room, they show up in another. So my company actually does the information removal process. We also do the due diligence and the background investigations. That's why I'm speaking from two sides of my mouth, where you want to be open-hearted and introspective when you're talking to someone, but you also want to dig as deep as you can to find that information, have that conversation. So these advertisements, they have great marketing. They're great brands. They have great marketing. It doesn't mean that they do a great job. I would always refer you back to a licensed private investigator who specializes in this and has the license and authority to do this type of work. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the phone calls, even that'll come into my office, will be, hey, this tweet came out and people don't like me. Can you get it taken down? And this phone call has actually happened quite a few times. I need to get access to my file, and I'm making air quotes here. I'm trying to find a job and I can't find a job. And I think there's something in my file. Like people believe that there's actually some sort of big record out there with all of your information in it. And, there's something that says like you smoked pot in high school or something. That's usually a big conversation we have with the customer because there's not usually a file. You may have done something. And I just ask, I'm like, what have you done that you would be embarrassed that your mother would know? What have you done in the past? And that's they start talking about the traffic violations, or I smart mouthed a cop one day, or I did smoke pot in high school and I got caught. And it's like, yeah, that's not enough for anyone not to hire you. Maybe what you need is a business coach to help you get better interview skills. Then you need a private detective to go digging through your life to find out some imaginary thing and it's some imaginary paperwork that you're convinced exists out there because of murder podcasts or something.
Let me ask this question. You spoke a lot about state laws. So are there ins and outs of hiring somebody that's in another state? How do you navigate that?
Well, especially with work from home, you don't have to have them all coming into your building anymore. You can hire for the talent and not necessarily for the location. Like my company has people spread throughout the whole country. And if somebody wants to, my business is in New Jersey, but somebody who lives in New Hampshire and is incredibly talented, but is never going to move, I have to work out what that looks like. So the hiring laws are going to start with me here in New Jersey because I'm the hiring agency and the license is coming out of New Jersey. And by license, I mean my private detective license. So I'm beholden to New Jersey state laws. But I will have to consult with New Hampshire to find out what are your requirements and laws. It starts off with my first and foremost concern is what am I legally responsible as a private detective to do with New Hampshire? And they might say that I also have to be licensed in their state. I have to carry a PI license there, which more than likely is going to happen because everybody wants their dime. Then the employment laws, and I have an HR team that I work with that handles the logistics I don't like to get into it. It's a real subject matter expert that's going to come in there, and our HR company has a lawyer on staff that tells me, and apparently we're filed everywhere, and there's taxation and things that business owners have to deal with, but I never want to talk about.
Yeah, I get that. When you're looking at the laws that are involved, is it the laws associated with wherever that company is domiciled, or is it where the candidate is? Which,
For background screening, it's
yeah,
the laws of where I am. So I am going to be, let me stress this. Everything that I'm doing is online.
mm-hmm.
If I were to do in-person interviews of any investigation, whether we're hiring or just going to go into a discrete investigation on staff members in another state, I might have to hire another state investigator depending on the reciprocity laws of that state. It's like an accountant. An accountant can operate from their office, but if they step out, or a lawyer, they step into some other state, they're probably going to have to check what that state requirements are for them to act as a business partner in that state.
Okay. It's wherever the company is domiciled that is operative.
It starts with that, yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. Well, Cynthia, is there anything that I should have asked that I didn't ask that would help female executives understand the essence of this process and what they need to keep in mind when they're hiring for either their company or their household?
One of the easy tricks I always like to share, probably could have gone under the what's for free out there and how can we do this ourselves, is most business professionals, whether they're serving domestically or within a corporate mindset, are going to keep LinkedIn profiles.
Mm-hmm.
It's a social media profile that's open and accessible to everyone. I like to go through and review their LinkedIn profiles, see the span of time they spent at each company. There are contract jobs where you kind of come in and spend a few months or maybe a few years. But if I see a lot of turnover, it's a flag. I'm looking to see if it's consistently kept up with, what education they might have. Does it match the resume? If there's big inconsistencies with what they have on LinkedIn versus what they have on the resume, those are the types of things. And it also gives me some good starting discussion points when I'm in an interview with them, is because everybody knows it's what they put out there. They're self-advertising. So it's a safe thing to start chit-chatting like, oh, I see you worked at Nabisco or interning with the State Department. And it allows them to start opening up and discussing and sharing with us about their lives, their stories, and the things that they want to go across. At that point, I might also ask, hey, if you had anyone you wanted to refer me to at Nabisco that I could do, a fact check on, who would you recommend? And then see what that question elicits as far as a response from them, because they might have had a terrible time and they're like, oh, gee, I wouldn't know who to give you. Oh, okay. That should have an immediate response with, I have 5 people I could give you tomorrow because we got along spectacularly and I broke my heart when I had to leave.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all the more reason for us as individuals to keep our LinkedIn profiles current as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Cynthia, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you. This was a real pleasure, and I'm accessible for anyone who might have any questions about what we discussed.
And that will be in the show notes. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you very much.
Thanks for listening to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women. If you like what you are hearing, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave a review. And if you would like more information on how we can help women in your organization to thrive, then go to www.sarahebrown.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, read show notes, and learn more about our podcast guests, read my blog, browse through the books, or contact us for a chat. Goodbye for now.